Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good evening. How we doing today? Hold on. Let me check if I'm lagging. I can fix it if I am. I don't think I am, but I'm just want to make sure. All right, we're good. All right. How we doing today, everybody? I hope everyone is doing well, and a big happy 4th, happy Independence Day to my fellow Americans. I hope you're having a good day. Hope you've been enjoying yourself. I hope you've been getting outside. Yeah, that's what I've been doing. Hence the nice summer shirt today. All of that. Gotta look nice on the 4th. How you doing though? Hope you're all doing well. Yes, keep track of your fingers today. Keep track of your hands and fingers. Be safe. Don't do anything stupid. It is not worth it. Um, How are we all today? Good, good. Hope you're well. Happy 4th. Yes, spent some time in the morning out the 4th of July parade with the kids, to the pool, got some food, hanging out now in the afternoon as we get ready for this evening. Maybe we'll watch some fireworks, maybe something else. We'll see. But either way, just enjoying the day. Either way, and that's what you got to do. So I hope you're all well. If you're not, of course, in the States, which most of you are not, that's okay. Don't worry about it. 90% of the Independence Days around the world were given by the British. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yes, the water. No, a nice hydrated, sober holiday weekend for me. Trust me on that. But anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. It is for most an ordinary Friday, Friday the 4th of July, for you all. Some of you maybe it's already Saturday the 5th. Kind of a interesting day in the news so far today, on a bunch of different topics aside from United. I will I want to speak about the United stuff, of course. Obviously, a couple of interesting things before that. Um, Obviously, that whole situation with Arsenal, which I don't want to comment on in too much in particular. The only thing I will say about that is the lack of inquest, the lack of outrage, the lack of vicious attacking for something done extremely worse than anything United did when they dealt with a semi-similar situation and dealt with it significantly better, is quite interesting. There was a hell of a lot of moral grandstanding that was going on in the past that seemingly doesn't matter anymore. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. Stuart, thank you for gifting the memberships. Thank you so much for giving some of our good friends here the memberships. Thank you for that. Always thank you for supporting the channel and everything today and every day. But people knew about all of this, and it only coming out. I'm sure there are fans who are upset about it at Arsenal. I'm not gonna blame Arsenal fans, but United got in so much more shit. Attacked, politicians were commenting on it. So many people were commenting on it, attacking United about it, calling it such a and meanwhile you've had manager executives publicly supporting, backing, and pretending like none of this even happened, or something to me, that is incredibly serious. Not to put the cart before the horse on guilt versus innocence and things like that, but the situation itself is so serious. It's unbelievable that it's just been, the lack of sorry, my thing said I was offline for a second. Um, Hang on. That was weird. Anyway, the lack of inquest, the lack of everything is just kind of crazy. I think in the end we dealt with it fine. Um, and it's kind of crazy that, yeah. Um, it's just crazy. And yeah, it was me. For some reason, it just said I was offline, and then it's all good now. I think I bumped my cable. That was my fault. So, it should be okay now. Everything should be fine now. But yeah, everything should be okay. Hopefully you can all hear me again. It was just they tried to get me. They tried to get me. Arsenal didn't like it. The voice is randomly cutting and lagging. Is that true? It says it's all okay on my side. Hang on. I'll open it up on my phone, but everything says it's okay. There was a moment it was bad. Just refresh if you have any issues, but everything should be fine at the moment. Yeah. I'm breaking up. Sound is breaking up. You can't hear me shout directly into the microphone. Here, hold on. I'm just gonna open it on my phone really quick. You have 90% of people saying voice is fine and like 10% saying it's cutting out. Hold on. I mean, I can hear myself really well when I listen on the video, so. Yeah, I think it's you guys. Just refresh your stream. Yeah, just refresh your stream. It's not me. It's not me. I just opened it on my phone. It's all good. It should be fine. Just refresh on your end if you're seeing any lag. I think that YouTube had a little kerfluffle there. But yeah, all right, just refresh. You'll be okay. Refresh. Everybody's fine. Everything is okay. All right, but a lot of things, other things to discuss on United side. Let's just get to it. Sounds peachy, straight from an episode of Miami Vice. Yeah. All right, cool. Let's get to it. All right. So I do have an agenda today. I do have an agenda to discuss today. First of all, obviously the biggest news here that we want to talk about is is the players being told to stay away. So we'll get to all of that. First, we talk about the number 10. Cunha officially then, well, I mean, I guess it hasn't been officially, but officially given the number 10 shirt. Obviously, the shirt worn by Marcus Rashford before. As I've said previously, unfortunately, it's been known by all sides that he's on his way out, that he's looking to leave. He was publicly commenting on that, obviously about looking to hopefully go play in Barcelona and all of that. So no, I don't think it's like a huge deal at this point or particularly disrespectful, because it was not briefed, not announced until now. And it's been really obvious over summer that Rashford was not going to stay here into next season. Okay. That was known, that was obvious, and that's been coming. So I think that, look, I'm a big, huge, forever will be a supporter of Rashford. And I think to me, it's sad. The end of Rashford's time at United. I think it is sad. But it's been going this way. We kind of have known this for a while, and he's not going to be here next season. So what else can you do? What else are you gonna do? He won't be here next season. So you're freeing up shirt numbers. It is what it is in that respect. I don't have a problem with it in that respect. You're signing a new player, you're bringing him in, he's there. Do I love the way that things have ended between the club and Rashford? No, not at all. I'm definitely not super happy about it. In general, I think that it's been I think it's been unfortunate, everything that's been going on over this time. But Rashford's been talking about leaving. He's been talking about going. Everybody's been talking about it. And it's just time. At the end of the day, it's just a number, you know? If he's not going to be there next season, then you just move it on. And, and I don't love it. I don't love the whole scenario, but I don't think the number thing matters. Once you've decided on both sides that a player is leaving, it's over at that point. It's done. That's it. It's over and it's done, right? Like, that's it. If you're having any sound issues, just refresh. The stream died for a second and YouTube's having issues. Just refresh and it'll be okay. That's it, man. It's just the end of things. Like, it's just the end of things, I don't know what else to say about it. We've been there before. I understand the shirt number story came out long before, but they were also signing and making plans for next season long before. Rashford is not here. Rashford is leaving. Rashford, agreed. The club has spoken already about moving him on. We've covered that before. And Rashford agreed when he did his interview that it was a good time to take the next step. That's the end of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though, like I've said, I think it's the right thing for everybody. I can be a supporter of Marcus Rashford and say it is the right time for him to go. And then it's just, that's the end of it. That's the end of the whole thing at that point in time. You don't have to agree with me, but we're about to head into another discussion over a relationship analogy here, which is that if you and your girlfriend are together and your girlfriend says, yeah, it's time for me to look for my next partner, but you have a lease in the apartment together, you don't have to keep her side of the bed warm. She's going to sleep in the other room until she finds a new place to live, or you, and vice versa. You don't need to keep warming the bed. You don't need to keep put their toothbrush out, charge their phone. Like, it's over. That's it. It's done. Accept it. And you can all wish each other the best. And that's what's happening. And the fact of the matter is that United are looking for, will let him go on loan and he will leave this summer. There's zero talk of reconciliation. I thought that was a good one. I thought that was a good analogy. There's no talk of reconciliation. There isn't. It's over, guys. It's over, right? And I think it's easier to accept that because it makes it cleaner. And when it's over, you're not talking about the number 10 being Rashford's number. You're talking about the number 10 at United. Who's the number 10 at United now? Well, it's Cunha. Cunha's the number 10 at United. Moving forward, that's it. So there you go. It's not Rashford's number anymore. We don't retire numbers at Manchester United. You don't retire numbers at Manchester United. You don't retire numbers really in this sport, aside from, I think, what just happened with Liverpool, if I'm not mistaken. Am I wrong about that? I don't know exactly what just happened here. But, it's not like in American sports, you often retire numbers. Like nobody can ever wear 23 for the Bulls again or something like that. There's nothing else, man. If you don't retire numbers, that's the end of it. So it's just a number. The number stays with the club and goes to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. So if Rashford is no longer here, then he's not going to be the number 10 anymore. I'd take the 7 off Mason Mount even if he is here. Wouldn't give a shit. Because it should be for the guy. It should be for the person who's going to be there. It's not intended to be disrespect. It's intended to be somebody who is there who, is playing in that position. Like the number wasn't retired, so it's available. Yeah. So anyway, that's my position on it as somebody who's obviously a very much a pro Rashford person. Um, we took the 9. I mean, yeah, we took the 9 off Martial while he was still there. Like, I don't. I just. It's whatever, man. It's whatever, man. Rashford is leaving at United, and that's it is what it is. I've accepted it, and I hope he has the best part of his career moving forward. I hope it works out really, really well. And that leads us, of course, into our next point, which is that all of these players have been told to stay away, to stay away, to not be a part of the team anymore. This is specifically Garnacho, Sancho, Rashford, Antony, and Malacia. And you know, uh, I think this is very much the right thing. I think what's really, really obvious here is that, you know, Ruben Amorim wants to play, practice, train, and focus on the team that he will play with next year. It has very little now to do with transfers, like where they're at, how they're making a move, how close it is. Doesn't matter. They won't be in the team next year. You know, an emergency loan out or something will probably happen if any one of those players can't be sold. They'll just loan them somewhere or tell them they're not going to play because they're not going to play. They're not a part of the team. We know that Antony isn't and doesn't want to be there. We know that Sancho isn't and doesn't want to be there. We know that Rashford isn't and doesn't want to be there. And we know the same about Garnacho. Now, Malacia is sort of funny him being lumped in a little bit because he's never like done anything wrong, particularly as far as we all know on Tyrell Malacia. He has no like dispute with the club except, over things. He has had an unfortunate time at United and is obviously not going to be here for the long term. But he did play, and then he went on loan and all of that. But it's interesting, the little war of words here about have all requested a transfer, and then you get some article saying that they deny requesting that. Well, that's bullshit. Sorry to say, just respectfully, that's bullshit. Every one of those players requested a transfer, most of them publicly. I don't think that line's coming from Rashford's people because he's been very upfront, honest about it. Again, that's why I don't really criticize the Rashford thing in the slightest. He's been very forward, very honest about since that time in November about wanting to make the next step and moving, and so be it. Sancho, it's clear as day. He has no route back into United under any circumstances. He's made that bet for himself in a less respectful way, in my opinion. Less than respectful. Antony, same thing for me. Talking about how it's revenge. For what? For buying you? For playing you? Or, giving you in there for 2 years? It's pretty obvious which camp that line comes from. The one who's pretended he's super committed to United for years while looking for moves away. And behind the scenes is always a bit different than what's in front, but I'll stay away too much from the allegations, but you all know who it is who would be putting a line like that, and you all know who it is that gets a fair bit of protection in media for whatever reason, because of it as well. But yeah, they've pretty much all been publicly looking to move from United, and Ruben Amorim's view on it is just, hey, so be it. I want to work with the people that I want to work with that are going to be here next season. Now, this is interesting because, of course, then if you remove all of these players and you look at the squad today, Antony talked shit publicly when he did a whole interview about Batiste and about how, he wanted revenge about the situation in England and things like that. All of those types of things. And, it's fine. It's fair enough. It's just a game. You know what I mean? Not a big deal to me. But I think that it would be I think it's a little bit like I thought it was a little insulting. Like, sorry, bud, you failed at United. United didn't really fail you. You're one of the players who got a lot of chances. You know, um, you got a lot of chances. You had your manager. You had a lot of trust. You had a lot of opportunities. You failed the club. The club didn't fail you. So, um, not anybody else's fault but your own at that point in time. So it's good. It's good to remove them because I've been wondering for a while here, right? Like, what do we do? When these players are returning? This has been like a real question because obviously I don't think we're gonna keep them. We will keep them and play with them, but like then what do you do? Yeah, what do you do in that case when they come back for training? Because because then what happens? You put them in to the team and you train them? And how do you have honest conversations about what's expected? You remember when like Sancho returned really briefly under Ten Hag, like really briefly last summer, and you got like a couple like really awkward like interactions filmed with them. Like, I mean, everything with Ten Hag was kind of awkward to be fair, but do you remember that last summer? Like they like specifically videoed them like walking in at the same time, and it was so awkward. It was so awkward, dude. Like unbelievably awkward. The last thing, and you look at it and you're like, how's that going to work with Ruben Amorim with the way that he is, where he's super obvious, where he's super, like deliberate in how he acts? How is he going to deal with 5 players he does not want to work with at all? So this is the right thing. Return later. When will they return? Later in July. What date is that? While United are gone. If they haven't been sold, they'll be back in training when United are gone. So they're not going to be interacting with Ruben Amorim. And so it gives us really like 4 to 5 weeks to get these guys gone out of there. So they're not having anything to do. So we don't have to get in this situation where either they're awkwardly playing with the squad or they're like delegated to the under 21s or something like that. You know what I mean? Or on individual plans separate from the rest of the team. So, it's an interesting situation, and it's interesting they've been told that. I think it's the right move for everybody. And look, I get that take, like it's bad for transfers because everybody knows, but everybody knew that already. Everybody knew that already. There's no doubt about that. Everybody knew. Oh, I'm not on the right panel for that to announce, by the way. I'm not sure if you've talked Mbumo. I'm getting concerned. Reports say we were super close, so failing to see what we gained from dragging this out now. Good question. I don't know. We can talk about it a little bit in the Yap session, because I truly do not know. I don't have the answers, Tom. I don't. I've heard very, very little on this since Sunday. I don't know. Yeah, we've gotten reports, yesterday, right, from Salt and Wheeler and people like that, edging close, compromise in view, nearly there, the medical schedule for this week, all of these kinds of things. And then you're just like, and Sunday, strong information that I had on it that we were speaking, some money, things like that. And then I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know why nothing has yet happened this week, or at least we just don't know that anything has happened as of yet. Fabrizio did a video or something. I don't know if he said anything interesting in there, or he's just covering, the individual situations of everybody. So, it's like everybody's been talking about it, and then it's just nothing has actually happened. Now, again, there's been nothing to indicate anything bad. but nothing to indicate anything good. So I don't know. I really don't. I wish I had an answer for you. I've been waiting all week to see if I hear something new about it or if anybody does, and nothing so far. That's pretty much it. Is it true that Michael from GTA who? Oh yeah, that's me. That's me. But look, this is all right, there we go. This is where we're at right now. This is the squad then, with the people sent away. This is the squad that Ruben Amorim has to work with when he comes back. On the 7th. This is the squad that he has to work with. As far as we know, everybody fit. So yeah, we need some changes. Fab said no talks between Napoli and United for Osimhen. Garnacho's interest from Bayern in Italian clubs. Yeah, but he doesn't want to go there, right? That's what he keeps saying. He wants to prioritize the Premier League. So yeah, Montato. Let's put him in at right wing back. Good point. Let's put him back here, and then we could throw in like Camason. Oh, let me see if I can get Camason, and then I'll type it. All right, sweet. Just pick somebody, and then I'll just. We've got some youth that can make up a few spots in the ranks here. But look, yeah, obviously at the moment, this is not a this is not a needle moving team that he's got in place. This is a big improvement, of course. There's no doubt about that. But otherwise, it's the same squad as last year. And my concern, of course, is that obviously you could shift this around, put Casemiro in the middle, keep Bruno up here, and Ahmad out wide, and that's probably a better team in terms of an 11, but you're still compromising. And if Bruno's going to play deeper, then you probably want to play him deeper in preseason to keep him training there and working there through all the summer in your plans. So, yeah, Leon, I understand, but we'll see. We'll see. He might be in there. He hasn't technically been announced yet, so I'm just going with this. Kabi Mainu could obviously be here or here, but we're not wealthy with options as of yet, right? We're not wealthy with options as of yet. Certainly, if you look at this, you'll say, all right, well, cool. Ruben Amorim gets a summer. He gets an incredibly important player in Cunha, and I really think that because we need more people, we're still underrating the impact that Cunha will have on this team. He is a really, really good player. He will completely change the way that we play, just in what he does and how he helps and assists in the build-up and things like that. But he's just one player, and so I don't think we were a 15th place team in general. I think a lot of it is down to just unlucky. I think but it's not a good team yet. It's not a team that can, if our goal next season, it's not a 14th or 15th place team at all. It just isn't. But with a full season under their belt and all of that. But it's if our goal next season, which I think Omar Barada said was like 6th, right? That we have to get 6th or better. They haven't given him the tools to get 6th. They haven't given him the tools to get 6th. This is not the tools to get 6th. So while I'm not worried about, I'm not necessarily worried about whether Mbumo happens or not yet. I am worried the more time that passes, we need to be able to train with the team that we want to play next season. We need to be able to train with the team that we want to play with. We need time. And this isn't enough. It's not enough. Again, I disagree that it won't be top 10 because again, I think last year was quite a bit of just like the sum of everything being absolutely shit last season. And it just won't be that bad almost no matter what happens. Players United will look in case. Why am I not getting the alerts today? Wait, hold on. Maybe I'm just lagging. Maybe when I got disconnected for a second, it took down my alerts. Because they should be showing up here. I think I got disconnected from my alerts, but from TTS. So I apologize if you wanted it to be read out, because it seems like it's been disconnected from my TTS. So sorry about that. But Players United will look in case of no Mbumo. I don't know of any yet. I think they'd move on to striker rather than going for alternative targets. I think that we would just go to a striker. So yeah, because then you could just go to striker, right? Get a striker in and put a midfielder, put Casemiro or something in here, and then you have Bruno. Go get a striker. Then you have a really good front three either way. If you move from Mbumo to like you get Gyokeres or Watkins in here, then it's a much better player. Yeah. Then it's still a very good attack, basically. If you were to do that. The midfield, you'd have to run Casemiro Garte until you buy somebody else. But it's not the worst thing. Like, that's not the worst thing. The striker thing is still, to me, the worst thing. My opinion. Or you keep it like this and you get a striker and you leave Ahmad here. Those are your options. But I believe that you have more options after Mbumo to just go get a striker if you were to miss out for some reason. I still don't think that'll happen. But look, I think it's a 8th to 10th team without more players, because I just don't think the teams between 6th and 15th are fuck all difference, to be quite honest. I really don't. I don't think so at all. But regardless, it's certainly not good enough. It's not good enough at all. I think that we seriously need to do more. Firstly, obviously, we need to get Mbumo in here pretty damn quick. Because the minute you stick Mbumo here and move Ahmad deep, then you start to have a really nice set of players in there in the attack. You still need to assess the striker, obviously, but as soon as you get Mbumo in here, it looks a hell of a lot better. But the reason I put Højlund there is he still naturally fits the type of play technically. But do I think that Xerxes would probably play more if we didn't get a striker in yet? Yes, I think so, for sure. I think Xerxes would end up playing a lot more. And I'd be a lot happier with that. Because if you get Mbumo in and you're set up like this with Mbumo, this is I don't think it's the ideal way he wants to play, but I think it's a good set of players then. I think it's a much better attack in terms of just having good players on the pitch. You know what I mean? I think it's much better in that respect. So, something like that. But yeah, look, it's just not enough. It's just not enough. It's not enough right now. We haven't given him the tools. And then obviously you have Cheeto in there too. It's a good point. Cheeto will definitely be training with the senior team in preseason as well. So it's just not enough. They have not given the tools to get from, where we're at to top 6. You add in Mbumo, it starts to become debatable. You add a striker, then you have the tools to get into top 6 and push into potentially top 5. That's the truth of it. That's as far as I see. So, yeah. No academy graduates in our starting 11. I mean, we didn't for a long time, right? Unfortunately, we didn't last year either, did we? Very, very often, we didn't. If this is the team next season, I can't say how we crack the top 10. Again, I think it's very much a top 10 team. I mean, it was 8th and it was worse, in my opinion. If you go back to Ten Hag's season, we got 8th. And it was a worse squad, in my opinion, at that point in time than what we have today. We had no left back at all. We had worse center backs. But we performed 15th and got bailed out with goals to get 8th. So Point taken. Look, whatever the position is, I don't care. 8 to 12th, 8 to 13th, who cares in my boat? Like I've said before, I don't think there's much between 6th, 7th, and 15th in the league. So we're still in that bracket. Wherever we finish, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th, doesn't matter. We're still in that bracket. If we don't add more to this, then we're still in that bracket. So it is what it is. So yeah, they've got to add Mbumo, because the moment you add Mbumo, this starts to look good. Now you look at this and say, okay, two of the top scorers in the league, two of the best attackers, Ahmad out wide, Dorgu, Bruno. You've got a bunch of people, a bunch of good people in here. You add a striker to it, and suddenly you have a really good attack and a really good unit of players around here. And I'm quite happy with the back line as well. So then I start to think, yeah, then it's a serious team, because don't forget the impact of goals. The impact of goals is insane. This is on its own merit. The front three will score so many goals. They will score a lot of goals on top of, with Ahmad, Bruno, and such with them. They will score enough goals to carry you into a good position. Like, that's just the reality of it. They will score enough goals to carry you into a better league position. Remember that the biggest correlation between league position, is goals. And if we can score 60 plus goals, then we should be competing in the top 5 no matter what. So that's how I feel on that. All right, so that's what we've got on there. So they're staying away. They're all working on the sales. To walk through them in particular, Marcus Rashford, very much they will approve a loan if needed. The Nico Williams deal with Barcelona has fully collapsed, and he signed a new contract where he is now. Luis Diaz, who they like, Liverpool have already strongly turned down, and with what's recently happened, I think it's a bit crass to go try and take somebody from Liverpool right now when they've already also been very much a no to it. But obviously, I think they're extremely unlikely to let anybody go. So, that really, he's not leaving. He's not. I mean, the likelihood that Luis Diaz leaves Liverpool right now is like absolutely zero, right? So Marcus Rashford seems like their main option at the moment. Now, at the moment, they still have this issue with registration, but as with usual, we'd expect they would solve it. I think United would accept a loan at this point. So in the next 4 weeks, I would strongly believe now that Rashford will get his move to Barcelona, just because of all the circumstances. It just makes the most sense, and it's just so logical, and it's yeah, it is what it is. So there's that. Anthony to Betis. There's an offer like around £30 million, but it's got a weird structure. It also needs a little bit of some payoff. So United are asking for a bit more. I think that one gets done over the next 3-4 weeks as well. And that one has been active, and that one's working. I do think that one will happen. Garnacho, as we know, they've been active. It's not like Anthony and Sancho situations have not been very active. They've been very active. There's been a lot of discussing, but I can't. I don't sit in the negotiating rooms. You know what I mean? Like, I don't sit in these rooms. Betis are not the only club in for Anthony. He's given them priority. He turned down a move to Como. I think he turned down some interest from Leverkusen as well. But I don't sit in the rooms with these clubs. I don't sit in the rooms with them. I don't make the decisions on when they're going to make bids. That's not my job. I don't control any of that. When I'm expecting more talks to happen and I give a timeline, that's when I'm expecting things to happen. Whether or not they get done in that timeline, who knows? I don't make the fucking deals. I can't force them to move quicker. They have held a lot of talks in recent days. I don't know. I can't control what happens in that room and whether they reach an agreement or not, or whether they make an offer or not, or whether they accept it or not, or whether the player accepts the wages or not. I can only say when I expect that they're going to be communicating and working towards a deal. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, great. Those are like minimum timelines, I would say. But they're important timelines. They are important timelines because they're the point where things are working. I said 7 to 10 days on Sancho and Antony like 2 weeks ago, and it's been moving. I mean, there's been a ton of activity on this Sancho to Juve front, which we'll talk about in a second. And the same goes for Antony and Batiste. They're talking, but it's slow, man. It is slow. We're not the only ones on this front that are taking their time. When I look at Batiste, I'm like, they've been trying to get Antony done for a month. They haven't. Barcelona have been trying to get a player in for a month. They haven't. That affects us. That affects us, right? Chelsea took a month to get Jamie Gittins in the door and ended up paying an enormous amount. Then, of course, somehow they randomly wrap up João Pedro by paying a crazy fee, like overnight practically. But, I don't know, man. I don't know. Sometimes these things just take a while. But they're moving. They are moving. So Rashford, Antony, Garnacho's the one that's, to me, still, he's got plenty of interest from outside of England, like Fabrizio said, but he's prioritizing the Premier League. My hope is that he wakes up and says, maybe I'm just not wanted in the Premier League. Maybe Chelsea aren't going to make a big move for me. Maybe this isn't going to work. And I need to accept a move out for somewhere else. Thanks for the reminder. That's been my hope all along for Garnacho, is that he will wake up a little bit and understand his situation. He will wake up and understand his situation. It only takes a while when it's United every summer. I don't agree. I still don't agree with that, even though, and I'll speak in the, I'll yap a bit in a minute here, but I don't agree that it's just United. Newcastle have done nothing. Supposedly they have money. They've had this, they've had that. Tottenham have done nothing. Newcastle are on the verge of paying £60 million for Anthony Elanga. Listen, I'm not trying to insult Elanga. I'm happy for him that he's now having a good career. Anthony Elanga still ain't that good. They're paying £60 million for him. He's still not that good. He's not that good. I can't believe they're paying that much money for him. It's a fucking ripoff. He's not that good. He's just not. We signed Cunha. That's probably the best, besides maybe one could argue Florian Wirtz, but we'll see about that. It's still the best player signed this summer of the Premier League teams, in my opinion. But some people will disagree with that because as long as you're from a foreign league, even though that has a much higher failure rate, you'll get rated higher than the best players in the Premier League. But like it's just congratulations to him though, Anthony Elanga, by the way. Like I said, it's not intended to be, insulting, but he's not £60 million as a player. He's a solid £40 million player. He's solid. He's a solid, good player. That's great. It's fine, man. It's like cool. But he's not a £60 million player. Rangers is not better than Cunha. Rangers is not better than Cunha. Like the idea that he is, how do you know? He's never played a game in the Premier League and they just got knocked out by Al Hilal. Good luck, man, in the Club World Cup. Turkey has looked like Sancho so far for Man City in the games that I watched in the Club World Cup. If you don't know that those transfers are a hit, you know Cunha is. You know who he is. So it is what it is, in that respect. But yeah, congratulations to Elanga. Any former United Academy players, bar like maybe one, I wish all the best for, and that they have great and successful career for sure. And Elango works his ass off and is a top athlete, so good for him. Turkeys look like a chunky little Sancho showing up in summer out of shape and fat so far. So I mean, he might have dodged a bullet, you know. We'll see. We will see. But yes, and then the next one is, of course, speaking of Sancho, is Sancho and Juventus. And there's some talk out of Italy that United and Juventus have agreed to a deal. Look, it's almost true, okay? It's almost-ish true, but it's also almost irrelevant. United have like 2 or 3 different offers on the table from Juventus. They have an offer of the money. There's no problem there. They have an offer of the of potential swap that involves Douglas Luiz. They have a few presented kind of offers on the table, but it doesn't matter because that offer doesn't encompass Jadon Sancho and his wages and agreements with Juventus, which is the most important factor in this. And that is what is important. One thing that I did find interesting that went under the radar, there was fan forum minutes published. And in those fan forum minutes published, they confirmed the reality of that Jadon Sancho conditional obligation, which is what I said. This was not this fucking like incompetent, oh my God, why did you include an option when it's an obligation and you lied to everybody? They confirmed it. It was an obligation on the basis that they agreed personal terms with Jadon Sancho. That's it. Because it was done so late, they were not able to agree personal terms with him. It was an obligation. The only condition in there was that they agreed personal terms with Jadon Sancho. So these stupid things like, oh, well, you know, we'll agree an obligation and then someone's going to pay a penalty clause because we're so incompetent. That's not it. All that happened was because it happened so late and they didn't agree a contract ahead of time, which is usually done on an obligation, the penalty had to exist. Because if they could not agree, then a transfer could not occur in that case. It's not a normal thing. It will never be in another obligation. It hasn't been in other obligation. No, it was an obligation, but there are other rules involved in these types of things. You can't just force players to transfer. You just have to have an out because they didn't agree to personal terms before the move. So it was always conditionally contingent upon agreeing wages. That is an obligation, though. It's an obligation to buy contingent on agreement with the players. That's like you bought a player contingent on getting their visa. Doesn't mean you didn't agree a fee. It is absolutely an obligation. To United, they have an obligation, but it is contingent on them agreeing that, and that's why there's a penalty if they can't agree with that. But that's I'm sure it's probably happened before, but it's not like that's a normal thing. It is purely because they didn't offer them an out. It was purely because they hadn't agreed on contract beforehand on personal terms. No, he would be at Chelsea if they agreed personal terms, which is a necessity in a transfer. Clubs can agree a fee. You're talking about two different things. Clubs can agree to a fee, but the player does not accept the move. There are 3 parties that have to agree, 2 clubs and a player. If the player doesn't agree, there is nothing you can do about it. That doesn't change the nature of it. It's sort of pointless. It's still an obligation. They can't force Jadon Sancho to accept the move and agree to the wages. So we can blame Chelsea. It's obligation because there's no other word for it. The agreement between the clubs is clear. The agreement between the club and the player is not clear. It's a different party. involved. Like Sancho is not obligated. Correct. Yeah, there you go. That's correct. Sancho is not obligated to join. Um, correct. Sancho is not obligated. There you go. That's a good way to explain it. Chelsea was obligated. Sancho was not. So be it. United and Barcelona agreed. We agreed a fee for Frankie. We agreed a fee with West Ham for Harry Maguire. We've agreed a fee right now for Juventus, for Sancho with Juventus. You know what I mean? Yeah, we've agreed a fee with Juventus for Sancho at the moment. Um, so uh, yeah, it is what it is. It's unfortunate though. But look, important to note here is that United haven't rejected the swap deal idea yet. They still have not rejected the swap deal yet as of today. It is a possibility that United will accept a swap deal as a part of making it work with Sancho. But the news we have to wait for is out of Italy is not that there is an agreement between them. Um, is not that there's an agreement between them, United and Juventus. We need to hear about Juventus and Sancho coming closer. Now, there was a someone reported a little bit some sort of piece like that he was willing to renegotiate his salary. Um, um, not sure. Questioning the football qualities of Turkey. When was I doing that? Yeah, I feel like obviously anyway. They there was a report, but I don't think it was a good report, unfortunately. But that's what we need to hear. And again, the biggest answer on that swap is Douglas Luiz, a player that United do like, and I could see them bringing someone like him in, for sure. I could, and they haven't turned it down. They've been interested for a while, so this one is kind of rolling on. I think there's a little bit of brinksmanship going on there where I called him a fat Sancho. No, I called him a Sancho. Same thing. um, same thing. Um, who was praising Garnacho? This is not the praise Garnacho stream. I promise you that. Um, but anyway, regardless, obviously Sancho will hope to hold his position that United will agree then to the payoff. United will want them to get closer. Juventus will just want to get some kind of deal done. One way or another that works. That works on the finances. So we'll see. An interesting thing here on the next subject that I want to talk about is these UEFA penalties. I didn't totally understand it, but I want to read this to you. And the reason, obviously, it matters is it specifically pertains to Chelsea and Aston Villa, who've been fined by UEFA. Now, the important things to understand here is that this is not PSR, okay? This is not PSR. PSR, profit and sustainability rules, are Chelsea, Aston Villa, United, everybody involved in the Premier League saying, hey, you can't lose X amount. So when Aston Villa sold their their women's team or things like that, that's PSR. Okay. These are squad cost controls from UEFA. This is where UEFA have a thing where they say, hey, your total revenue, your squad cost can't exceed a certain percentage, like 70% or something like that. It can't, your squad costs, meaning transfers, amortization, and wages, cannot exceed a certain percentage of your revenues. That's a different violation. That isn't accounted for by selling your women's team and shit like that. It doesn't do. So Chelsea violated it. Aston Villa violated it. It is FFP, yeah, but it's the squad cost controls aspect of FFP. So the ruling here is interesting because it says the club agrees to be subject to a sporting restriction, okay, and as a consequence may not register any new player on its List A to UEFA club competitions unless the List A transfer balance is positive. The List A transferred balance is defined as the difference between the cost savings from outgoing players and the new costs from incoming players at any applicable deadline for the club's submission of his List A. And that is unconditionally applied to the next 2 seasons. So what does that mean? So if Villa had their 25 List A players that they registered for European competitions last year, how many would that be? Like, obviously, like, it's maybe 25. I'll try to explain this, okay? Yeah, they failed on multiple fronts, yeah. So they paid like 15 million or something like that, and there's a conditional additional fine if they do not comply with this rule, an extra big thing. So here's the point. Villa will have had their List A players that they registered for UEFA last year. Chelsea too. Again, let's read this. The difference in cost savings from outgoing players and new costs from incoming players. So how many players on that List A do they sell? For how much? And how much wages did they save? They have to sell and save more on wages than what they bring in, or they cannot register them. So they have 25. Let's say they sell 5 of them for 100 million, and they buy 2 new players for 120 million. They can't register those new players. They can't register them. They can only register them if the costs that they've stripped is higher than the costs that they've brought in. They have to reduce, right, regardless of their revenues, they have to reduce their expenses on amortization and wages for their main team. So I look at Chelsea, for example, and I go, how the fuck is that possible? They've just bought Jamie Gittins. They've just bought João Pedro. How are they selling 150 million? Nobody wants their cast-offs right now. And then they could buy them, but they can't register them for UEFA. So they're going to have to it's a mess. It's a mess. I don't get that. Chelsea have so many players. I mean, maybe they'll figure out how to sell more than they buy, or they just won't register certain players. Aston Villa, though, how? Aston Villa don't have these huge assets, do they? Like Delap, they bought Delap, João Pedro, and Jamie Gittins. They can't register them for Champions League right now until they sell like 150 million worth of players. They can't be registered. Unless I'm misunderstanding it, and I don't think I am, they can't register those players today for UEFA. They can for the Premier League. But they're going to have to sell up. But the thing is, it's not just other sales. They have to sell List A players. They have to sell List A players. Okay? And the same goes for Aston Villa. Aston Villa have to sell some players. So Ollie Watkins, obviously, now this comes to mind on Ollie Watkins as why this is potentially a deal that could fall into our lap here. Because they're going to have to sell more than they buy. That's probably why they want to sell Emi Martinez, Watkins, all of that. Now, bear in mind, they don't have to sell. But they do have to sell if they want to buy and register new players. Let's take a look here. Let's take a look. What is Aston Villa's Champions League squad for 25? No, fucked it. I've fucked it. They're not in the Champions League. Here we go. All right, let's take a look. So these are their lists. I mean, I don't know if these are all List A because some of them, a lot of the young players would have been on List B. right? A lot of the homegrown young players would have been on list B, so a lot of the guys you see that haven't appeared. So they're going to have to sell, you know, you look at the ages, right? Emi Martinez, if they had some loans, Europa counts, that's UEFA. If they had some loans, those probably count for squad cost savings, right? So like Marcus Rashford was registered in the list A. So the savings on his wages will count for them. But they're going to have to move some of these players. Marco Asensio. Did they permanently sign Asensio, by the way? Yeah, it applies to any UEFA competition. Did they permanently sign Marco Asensio? Now I can't remember. I feel like they were going to, and I can't remember. Lincoln, Barkley. So some players may have departed as free agents on this list. No, they haven't. Okay. So they've probably got 300,000 a week in maybe 200,000 a week in wage savings in terms of their costs. So so they have a little bit of wiggle room, right? Like if they have about 15 million a year in wiggle room right now, you would assume Aston Villa. If they sell Emi Martinez, they'll have a little bit more in wiggle room. So they have some room here to reduce their squad costs. But realistically, they can't buy much unless they sell significantly. And then they could, and then they will be able to. So I think that's going to mean, look, yeah, they don't have to sell. They're not in a position where they have to sell, or they won't be able to play, or they won't be able to be registered, or they won't be able to compete. So correct, when you see articles like John Percy Telegraph saying they're not forced into a fire sale, totally true. Unless you want to sign players, then you're going to have to sell. Because at most they can probably do one transfer without sales for their UEFA list. You know, one significant transfer. So it really does make sense for something to happen with Ollie Watkins this summer for sure, because he's a player who's probably on decent wages, 130,000 a week. If they can get 50 million for him, that gives them a lot of wiggle room. Emi Martinez as well, who's on decent wages. So probably Martinez and Watkins are the two main names they're going to look to move that are going to give them some wiggle room this summer in order to spend in the market. Like they could get a player in, but they can't do much otherwise without some sales. And then obviously, you know, they may be technically okay because they sold the women's team for now, but obviously that's not like going to be a huge long thing. You know what I mean? They're not going to be. It's not going to be like a huge long like solves the problem forever type of thing. They still need to resolve it, so they're still going to need some sales. So I think that's important. I think that's important. I think that's potentially meaningful that these clubs are going to sell. But I also think the likelihood of Chelsea coming in for Garnacho seems minimal. I think Villa are best hope in the Premier League right now. So yeah, on that front as well, on some other fronts, there's a lot of talk of Arsenal moving on to Gyokeres from Šeško now. That Berta's pushing it strongly. That talks are kind of advancing between Arsenal and Victor Gyokeres to move in. Again, I think, as I was saying the other day, fine, that means Ollie Watkins would essentially fall into our lap. There wouldn't be an enormous amount of competition for him. And I think that would be a great deal that we could get done. But yeah, that one, you know, it does sound like from the noises coming from the Arsenal side that they are moving towards Victor Gyokeres at this point in time, and it seems like he's gonna end up there. And then, you know, it's interesting this John Victor from Botafogo. Like, I believe it's true. Yes, from my best of my knowledge, United are interested in Victor. To the best of my knowledge, that is an accurate link. And it fits the type of goalkeeper we're probably going to be going for this summer, which is someone who can compete with Onana And then hopefully we'll see how everybody does. And then ideally next year we go out and get another number one. I mean, unless that goalkeeper does great or Onana turns it around fully, because the likelihood of Onana leaving this summer is just low. He's just quite low. It's just because of costs, because of everything. It's just low, the chances that he leaves. So, the getting an affordable goalkeeper to come in who can compete is probably the market we're looking at for this window, because we just don't have so much money to go and do a whole bunch of other things, and spend an enormous amount of money on a goalkeeper. So yeah, it's an accurate link. I don't know that it's progressed to the point that it may be being played up a bit too much, but there is an interest there. So we'll have to keep that in mind, definitely as something possible. Um, it's not fake news. It's there's an interest there. Oh, I don't think that even Kepa or Bettinelli were registered on list A for Chelsea. So someone's gonna be oh, Ndidi. I'm not sure about this one, to be honest, guys. I've not gotten anything to say that I can confirm that one being true at this point. Maybe it is. Like I say, I don't pretend to know everything. Sometimes there's ones I get and I say like, yeah, there's an actual interest in him. Like I said with Victor, um, with Ndidi, I can't confirm or deny it. I don't know. I can only give my opinion on that. And my opinion is that United have followed him for a while. My opinion is that his side are looking to get a move. My opinion is that it's not a terrible market opportunity, and I don't really mind it as a small transfer. But I would be surprised. I would be surprised if that's particularly. I'd be surprised if it's true. If the interest is serious or not, I would be surprised. Passing glance, maybe. I don't know. I don't think it's. I'd be surprised if it's true, because I don't think he's at the moment an athletic enough player to move the needle for what we're looking for. We want more energy, and I don't think that he has the physical tools right now to upgrade on whatever we have, like at all. But something about it is stinky to me. Let's put it that way. I think it's something about it's a little stinky. It's kind of like the Emi Martinez thing to a degree, where United have probably had like maybe at some point some brief contact over it, but it's far, far, far down the list of their ideal player for that position or who they're going to go for. Um, so yeah, something about it doesn't feel right to me personally about it being true, but that's only my opinion. Only my opinion. So yeah, and look on Mbumo. I wish I knew my guys. I really do. Like I say, you've looked at all week. Sunday, I heard working on this final bid that they believe will get it done. I know kind of the amount, and I do think it would work. Um, then Monday, Tuesday, you had Sky Sports, Simon Jones, others saying working on the final bid. Then like Wednesday, you had like District saying the bid was going to go in. Then like Thursday, you had Wheeler and Salt saying compromise there. We're edging close to a deal. The compromise is in sight to get it done. when, okay. Like I don't know what to tell you. I wish I knew. I don't understand. But nobody has said like, oh hey, shit, it's not happening. It's like everybody says they're working on it, and everybody still says it's expected to be done, and everybody says we're really close. I haven't heard anything. So, but look, my concern is again still less whether we get him or not. and more that I want him in for preseason for the reasons that we just talked about and looking at the whole squad list and all of that. It's we need more players right now. We need more players. We need some players in the door. We need to give Ruben Amorim a better attack. We do. I don't think about weekends. I don't think about things like that. It doesn't really matter to me. But, the intention was very much to get him done this week. That was the intention. And all of that. And United were prepared to get him done this week. It's not done. Don't know why. I just don't know. Don't know. So it is what it is. But yeah, my frustration is that on Monday, the time ticks for me. Because then you're wasting training time. The rest of it, don't care. Like I've said, June is meaningless to me. Monday, the time ticks on. And they have to give him a better team. Here's what I think, and here's the way that I see it, right? It's not so much about there's realities and there's not being prepared. But there's also realities. Here's the way that I see it, okay? What have they done well? One, the fact that we have the money to get Cunha and to get ideally Mbumo in, that we have the financial resources to do it, is 1,000% down to Ineos and the decisions that they've made at the executive level. That is a fact. I like the profiling of the players that we're targeting this summer from the people they've appointed in Barada, Wilcox, Pavel. I like the profiling. We've done well with signing young players. I like who they're targeting. I like who they're profiling. I like that it feels like they are building a proper squad together that makes sense, that's in alignment, that you can say you don't like Amorim, you don't like a squad, doesn't matter. He's the manager. They've picked the system. They've picked the way of playing. They are profiling correctly how to build the team. They've done a good job at convincing some players, at Cunha wanting only United, at Mbumo over the competition because there was a lot of competition. They've done well at those things. They've done well to be actually ruthless. We've heard that they were going to do this before. Many times that never actually happened, and not giving out pity contracts and extending people to preserve value and things like that, which we would have been giving out contracts again to Martial, to Varane, to the Ericssons of the world, to all of that. We would have done all of that in the past. We're not. They've done well at that. They've done well at being ruthless with the guys that aren't going to be here next year for the manager. These 5 players we're talking about, to say, good, you're not involved. Period. You're just not. We're not going to sit there and say, oh, well, got to preserve value, because you can't win with some people. People used to complain that we wouldn't be ruthless enough. Now we're ruthless with the players that are not going to be there, and people complain that it hurts their sell. Well, it did anyway. Everybody knew it. So I think they've done well on that front. I think they're doing well to get some of those deals lined up, because they're fucking hard sells. They didn't give them those contracts. They didn't pay those fees. The fact that there's actually solid interest in Rasmus Højlund and such too. Those are all good things. And that gets you up to a point. But at the end of the day, you are going to be judged, and rightly so. Like, that's all the preparation. That's all the things that you have to do right. Because in the past, we've had Woodward, Glazers, etc., who would get deals done. They'd go out and splash the cash, buy a shitload of players, and then they would all fail. So don't undervalue the preparation. The preparation is vital. You have to do the preparation. If you don't do the preparation, if you don't get those things done, then you can go spend all the money and make all the deals, and they can all flop and leave you in the situation we're in now. So that preparation is massive. However, at the end of it, you have to get those deals over. You have to deliver on the signings you need to make to build a competitive team. For me, of course, at the end of it, you're still going to be judged on that. And that's understandable. That's expected. For me, the minimum viability here is 3 forwards and at least one other significant signing in the door. I would add that once you hit July 7th, the balance of when those occur does matter. Look, it's fine that like you can get, it's not like you can't get players in August and then it means they automatically have a bad season just because you signed them in August and they didn't get a ton of time. It doesn't mean they're going to have a bad season because of that. We've signed players in August that have done great. But to set up your manager properly, to me, that's like a down, like number one is that you get them in the first place. And then you start to lose points for me based on how late they happen, not because I'm impatient, but because you do want to give your manager the tools over summer to do the best as possible. So for me, minimally, I said, getting 2 players in the door by around the start of training for me is good. So every day that ticks on from July 7th without Bryan Mbeumo, to me, you're losing credit in the bank. Because even if you get him, which is great, and it'll be fine when you do get him because you're not, you're signing him for 5 years. You're still taking small bits of your of marginal gains that you should have. Every day you have is a marginal gain. Every extra day of training is a marginal gain. So Mr. Marginal Gains and the guys at Ineos, you go by that theory, then every day you lose of not signing a player for preseason is a loss in marginal gains that you could have. So don't undervalue that. That does matter. It's not just clamor from fans to get players in early. It's because we need players. It's all well and good to exile, to say, hey, we're not going to play with five guys. These guys are not going to be part of the team. But then you've got to give your manager some more options soon because he doesn't have those options, right? So it's a lot of steps forward, a lot of improvements. I think we'll get the right players. I think that the hit rate on our signings is going to be 80-90% with the players that we're profiling and targeting. I think they're going to be successful in that respect in the end. So for me, it's mostly about timing. But they have to get the players. They have to. They brought Amorim in early, and they have to give him enough tools to succeed and not be set up to fail at the start of the season, because momentum can be a bitch. If you do not get that early momentum because you didn't get players early enough, then that can hurt you and that can spiral things out of control. So look, there's a lot of positives, but they still have to deliver on this window. Like I said, for me, three forwards, 3 very good forwards, and one in addition in goalkeeper, I think is an absolute minimum to me that you have to deliver on this summer. Ideally more, but that's the absolute minimum, because that's what you need to climb the table. We don't have to solve everything in 1 year. We have to solve it over multiple years. It's not going to be fixed in 1 year, but we need enough to get back into a financial position where next summer we're not so limited, because we can't go buy 4 players. We do have to sell players in order to buy some other ones. That's a reality of it. And we have to sell players that they didn't sign. That's the reality of it. But we have to provide enough options to get there in the end. In this season, we have to get back into Europe. Europa League is a minimum. We have to get back into Europa League as a minimum financially, be able to spend what we need to spend. So that's where we'll judge them. I'm not going to judge them today. It's the 4th of July. Cunha's a good move. If we sign Mbeumo tomorrow, it's like, that's my point. It's not, even though we want to overreact on this, if we sign Mbeumo tomorrow, immediately we've got 2 incredibly good players in the door before training starts. It's only the 4th. So I'm not going to say it's shit versus it's amazing on that basis. It's going to be really good if they get Mbeumo in anytime soon, and how good it is will diminish a little bit based on how long it takes from here forward, because the clock is ticking. Then I think the striker needs to be got in by the tour, though. I really do. I think it's going to be really hard for them to play. They want to play once they get to some more competitive games. Um, if the striker isn't done, so I think that's a big one. That's a real important one as well. And Bumo has to be done tomorrow. Brentford training Monday. Nick, well, we set those deadlines all the time. We always set those deadlines, and hopefully we do meet that. Um, hopefully we meet that, and then we'll see. It would be great if we meet that deadline. We don't have to. Again, that's kind of my point. Like, it's a line in the sand that you can step over. If we sign him on the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, 14th, 15th, we still get him. We still have him for the season, and it's not going to really particularly change it because you've signed him for 5 years, not for a month. But obviously, it gives you a little less. Again, it's marginal. It's marginal. The thing to look at it is, though we want to be very dramatic, it's marginal at this stage. I am worried about it that it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet because I don't know why, but that's more an unknown. The unknown factor of it should have been done this week. Why it isn't, I don't know. So we'll see. All right. I think that's it, man. I think that's it. I think that's it for this 4th. Tomorrow I'll be live at some point, but I'm not sure when because I've got other family things to do. Gotta do the vet in the morning. Gonna go to the Renaissance Festival. I don't know. You guys have the Renaissance Festival or anything similar over in the UK? You guys have anything like that? Do you know what the Renaissance Festival is? But yeah, we'll be doing that, and so I'll probably be back some point in the afternoon, late afternoon, maybe around same time as usual, 2:30 my time, 9 o'clock, something like that. So, yeah, be doing family stuff, and hopefully there's something meaningful to talk about then. The Ren Fair, yeah. Do you guys have those? You live it every day. It's true. They're fun. They're a lot of fun in the US. They're actually great. They're a lot of fun. They're a good time. They're a lot of fun. Bellingham, Glastonbury. Fair enough. So yeah, we'll be doing that. We'll be doing that tomorrow with the kids, taking the kids off for that. What day would you worry about our business? Well, the end of summer. Look, it's not a failure if they get the players that they need in summer. Like I say, it's not really that black and white. It's a failure if they don't get the players in. When they get them in, reduces the amount of it's like a blow. It's like Casemiro had a massive impact on our season that first season he joined, and he joined late. But we probably lost like maybe 4 to 6 points by not getting him earlier. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a failure, but there's a diminishing in the initial season in terms of the return that we get. Because again, we're signing players for 5 years. So you have to think like does it cost us some points this year the later we get them? If we don't have, I would say 3 players by the tour, I'll be disappointed. That's what I would say. If we don't have 3 new players by the tour, I'd be disappointed. We need them. I think we need Mbumo sooner than that, but we need 3 players in by the tour. That's my opinion. If we don't have that, I'll be disappointed. If we have 2 and one's close, that's great, but we need more than that. So it's if we end up scoring the Mbumo deal and only getting 3 players, would you class it as a failure? I don't know. Who are the 3 players? That would be the question. It would really depend on that. You know, if we got a striker and I don't know, I don't know. I don't know what the other example is, but if we got like Watkins and Balaba in, would I consider that a failure? Absolutely not. Why would I? Um, that would be great. Like Mbumo's a top player, and I want us to sign him. He's not the only good player on earth, so it just depends where we end up. So it's like 2 weeks is like the hard like get some players in by then. You know what I mean? Do you think purchases would be going better if Glazers? Everything would be going better if Glazers were no longer majority control. Budgets, finance, all of that would be faster, would be easier at the end of the day. That's still true no matter what. But yeah, let's see. It is what it is, man. Um, like I said, I think there's a lot of good preparation that's been done. They have to execute now, and the clock is ticking on that. I'd rather they take their time and execute and get the players right than go splash the cash and have a bunch of failures. But I don't think that. I'm not saying they should take too much time either. So hopefully we do hear something. It will really worry me if we don't get something between today and Monday on this Mbumo thing about what's going on. I will really start to worry about it then because it's just weird. It's just weird at that point. And there are times where the deal has gone silent because they're doing things, and there's times where a deal goes silent because it's dead and they want to have an alternative before anything gets out. So do we hear Sunday and Mbumo deal off, but we've purchased Ollie Watkins? I don't know. I'm not saying that's the case, but just understanding how some of these times these things work. There's no indication that that's the truth, by the way, but I'm just saying. All right. I'll see you later, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the fireworks if you're over here in the States.